right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shorts in Focus, where we show short films love. Once again, we know there are tons of people making short films in this area and abroad, and a lot of times they don't get seen. We here at Shorts in Focus want to give them an audience. We want to make this a nationwide movement of bringing attention to short films. We are excited about our guests here today. I'm not even going to try to introduce them because they have so much that they're doing. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Please go around and let everybody know who you are.
All right. So my name is Cathey. I'm one of the producers of the film.
I'm Ryan J. Cudahy. I'm the writer and co-director of Swipe. I'm also a producer on the film. And
I'm Kasey Ball, and I'm one of the other producers on the film.
And I'm Matt Cipollone, and I'm co-host of Shorts in Focus.
So you may remember Matt from last week because he was our guest.
I got through it.
Now he's co-host. He survived.
I graduated.
Right.
Actually.
He graduated from being a guest, and now he's a co-host.
Quickest promotion of my life.
Guys, we are talking about a film today called Swipe. Amazing film that we've had the honor and pleasure of seeing, and now we have a chance to discuss it. Just before we get into it, guys, how did you guys meet?
All right, so we are all students. We were students from James Madison University in Harrisonburg. We are all part of the video crowd. Joey and I here were part of the group called SMAD, which is Media Arts and Design, and we majored in video there. Kasey was a business major, but she and I met through mutual friends. We're all just obsessed with video. We're ready to go, and this is kind of how Swipe came about, was working to collaborate in that regard.
Had you guys done like film work before coming to school, or did you just get to school and then realize, hey, I want to make film?
I wanted to do film actually since I was 4 years old, before I knew what a filmmaker was. I still kind of don't know what a filmmaker. No, I'm just kidding. But when I was 4 years old, actually, I got a bunch of those Rugrats toys, and my dad had a video camera, so I decided, hey, if I point the camera in the right direction at the Rugrats in the right way, they'll look real. They'll look like they're actual cartoons. So ever since I was like 4 years old, I've wanted to go into film. I've wanted to tell stories through that way. So that's me. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's how I got into it.
Good luck stopping that story, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I would say a lot of the people that come into the SMAT program at JMU, they sort of had some sort of prior experience with film or video. I know, like for me, it was, everybody remembers when they got their first camera, right? It's a little crappy little digital camera that takes,
Mine was tape. You had digital camera?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, I was serious business with it. But, it's like my first video was basically a video of me ripping off the movie Hot Rod as a 7th grader in middle school, and I thought that was the greatest thing that had ever graced the earth. But no, it's funny. Everybody has a little story like that, and I mean, I'm sure you remember the first thing you did.
Mine was just, my cousin actually got a camera first, and he was only using it to shoot like these little shots of him playing sports. I was like, we could do so much more. Like, our cousins and our siblings are so funny. Like, let's have them do all these stunts. And our cousins were little, so we had them like jumping little bikes off of ramps that we knew they were gonna crash on purpose, and they would kind of just do whatever we kind of roped them into doing, and it turned into these little comedy sketches. So
that's awesome.
And then I got into high school and took a class in film, and I was like, this is kind of where I want to head. So I liked it.
Nice.
Does being interested in making films automatically make you a film buff, or do you guys really not consider yourselves like movie fans?
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm a horrible film person. Like, you ask me if I've seen this movie, I'll be like, nah. And my friends get on me all the time. They're like, dude, you haven't seen that movie? I'm like, no. But then you have kids like him.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Ryan loves movies.
Yeah, well, I don't think that necessarily like entails you to be a great filmmaker or want to be a film buff. I mean, some of the best people I know in film, this guy included, that are not quite as into watching movies. I mean, I know you are, but there are some people who just picked up a camera and know what they're doing. I don't think it's one or the other. It definitely doesn't hurt. Like, I mean, I feel like I like to think I've watched a lot of movies. I feel like that's somewhat helped me, but I mean, I think more it's about what you can do with it. But definitely loving film definitely goes into it.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's actually get into the film we're talking about tonight. If we can just get a quick background. I know we're going to see some clips here, but can you give the audience a quick rundown of what we're about to see and how the project came about?
Yeah, certainly. So basically last year I made a movie. It was a feature film called Jeremy's Son, and it was about a topic that was pretty important to me. And it went well, but there were definitely things I learned in the process that I felt I could have done better on a future project. So when I came up with Swipe, I realized I wanted to take a bunch of these ideas and channel them into maybe a shorter film that I could utilize better. So the film that we chose is basically a couple of compilation of stories scripts we came up with, and from that they all kind of had the same theme of modern dating, modern hookup culture, basically. And it was our director of photography, DP Jack Merline, who came up with the idea to merge the ideas, and now we have this compilation of different stories that we merged together called about modern dating culture.
And what's this first clip about?
The first clip is about kind of giving a profile of 3 of the main characters. We have 4 main characters here. You're going to see 3 of them. So those characters are Carter. He's the narrator of the film. Macy, she is, as we call her, as you'll see in the scene, a biddy, which kind of means kind of, the stereotypical kind of girl that you'll see. And Drew, he's the freshman, kind of looking for a different type of relationship. So those are what we see in these scenes.
All right, without further ado, let's check out our first clip.
People always ask me, do you like hooking up with random people? To which I replied, get off me and maybe we'll talk about it. You have to have a sense of humor about it, or no, it isn't fun.
What's interesting is none of us started out wanting shallow sex. I certainly didn't. For a while, I was a real sucker for romance. We'd watch Say Anything or Titanic or whatever Nicholas Sparks film just came out. We all believed there was someone special for us out there. And some of us still believe that. But who knows?
To the untrained eye, Macy's what we call a biddy. And like all biddies, her personality and humanity are unfairly taken for granted.
You've never rolled before.
Nope.
You're missing out, man. Molly's awesome.
Doesn't it, kill people?
Those are the dumbasses. You hear more about dumbasses with alcohol than with Molly. You should roll with me sometime.
Drew's tragic flaw is his impatience.
Sure.
Okay, this weekend, me and my girlfriend are gonna go get some.
I'm sorry. You're,
Yeah. Truthfully, I consider myself more bi, though I'm definitely...
Like most college students, give him 2 years and he'd be a master at talking to the opposite sex.
Me and my girlfriend sometimes it's a relationship.
But, as always, 2 years is too long for his libido.
Why don't you put that away so you and I can head upstairs? Okay, power.
There. Okay. USB and sound plugged in over there.
Oh.
Cody, DJ extraordinaire.
What's up, man?
We're always taught that everyone, no matter their traits, has redeeming qualities.
Todd the God.
Not Blake. Fuck this guy.
Sup, Blake?
Thanks for letting our prime DJ light it up tonight.
Happy to, man.
How you like our palace? Perfect venue.
Oh, we got the sweet ass fish tank upstairs, man. You want to see?
Dude, of course.
Hey, you're in my writing class, right?
Yeah, you sit up front?
Yeah. I didn't know you DJ'd.
It's my first show.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll keep my expectations really low.
Thanks.
Just don't disappoint me.
All right, guys, our first clip from Swipe. As you can tell, this is definitely a promising film. Guys, we got a lot of different character personalities in that one clip. Tell me, how did you come up with the different personalities for these characters?
Okay, so, there were a lot of ideas I had for this film. We had, as people will go to see when they see the film, we touch on topics such as, texting, online dating, and even issues from, drug abuse to sexual assault. There are a lot of issues that we try to cover in this film, and basically when I came up with these characters, I wanted to surround the topics in characters that would be able to relate to it. So I'm not going to say, they were drawn upon traits of people that I know. For instance, the character you see there where they say, fuck this guy.
Everybody knows one of those guys.
Yeah, like you were just saying that. Everybody knows at
one.
least one of those guys, and basically we wanted to touch on different characters in a way that people would be able to relate to in a good way like that. So the characters I came up with were drawn from people I know. They aren't, replicas, but they definitely were people I think would be placed in those situations.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Now, speaking of the situations themselves, are these situations that at least you and your friends have in some way, shape, or form experienced firsthand, or were you really looking to craft what you said was relatable, or is it a combination of personal experience plus some extra imagination?
Well, I'd say it's it's definitely a combination. You know, I feel like every single film someone makes is to some extent autobiographical. I mean, we draw off of things we know, and for me, that was kind of the idea of a lot of these characters was that they are based off of some experiences that I've had and some experiences that my friends have had. None of it's too much to the actual. A lot of it's fiction. None of it's too much autobiographical, but a lot of it does play into certain things in life that I have experienced. But to quote one of my favorite movies, Before Sunset, to answer specifically, it would take the piss out of the whole thing.
Well put.
Good.
I said well put.
All right.
I was going to try to figure out who is who in this table, but...
okay, so that's my question. This is what I want to know.
Let's get to the point
We got
here.
a couple of different personalities that we brought up, right? We got sort of like the player who was looking for romance but has kind of quit on it, so he's the player. We've got like the shy guy who, you know, wants to sort of wait out for love, and then we've got like the kind of, you know, corny but likable DJ who, you know, can't get his words together to talk to girls. I want to know, who are you guys? Which one of these characters are closest to you all, or do you feel like you don't fit into a box, as comes up in this film, which we'll talk about later?
I mean, for me, it's easy. I was the nervous kid in college going into it. You know, it's funny how much you change from the beginning of college or just that point in your life to 4 years later. Like, you know, I almost don't recognize the person that I am now compared to where I was then. So I think, you know, you could say the same for everybody, but then again, like, you go back to your hometown sometimes, you see people from high school, you're like, that person hasn't changed a bit. But it's interesting, and I know all of us definitely see ourselves in some similar situations.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For instance, for me, you know, since I wrote the film, I figure there's at least a little bit of me in every single one of these characters. For me, for these specific scenes, what I'd say is the one I relate most to probably is Drew. When he's at the table talking to the girl, thinks it's going to happen, and then realizes about halfway through, no, it's not, and he's crushed. And as we later see in the film, he's not okay with that. Now, I wouldn't say I go to the extent he does, but I feel like we've all been in that situation before at some point where we were into someone and they didn't like us back, and when you realize that, you just have to sit there and not really know what to do. So that's definitely kind of in these specific scenes is what I relate to the most. But I do feel like, for me at least, since like I said I wrote it, there's definitely a little bit of me in each one, so I can't specifically say which one exactly is me. So.
And Kasey was gonna say something about that. Don't let her off the hook that easy, guys.
That's all right. No, it's all him. I was just gonna say, I think personally, I kind of pull little characters and like characteristics and traits from each character that I kind of can relate to. I don't say there's one that I fully relate to, but I think that's one of the best parts about this film is that if you can't find one character you relate to, then you can kind of see a little bit of yourself in everyone. You can, you know, say like, oh, I've been in a situation similar to that one, or I've been in that exact situation from that character before.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, going off of that a little bit. You might not identify with the character or the personality of somebody in the film, but a lot of times the scenarios that they find themselves in, everybody can identify with that.
Exactly.
And so we really wanted to make it sort of universally attractive for a lot of people that are sort of going through dating in the modern age, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think what we talked about amongst ourselves, during the week that we got to review your great work was, it's fun because we all do, and even though all the situations in the movie aren't all fun and games, it's fun to figure out exactly who that reminds you of,
Yeah.
And I think you guys did a great job of that. Yeah. All of us were just trading stories about, knuckleheads that we grew up with that all remind us of these people.
Yeah.
But on the other side of this, I'm curious about the narrator character himself. How did you pick which one of your characters would guide the story? And also, can you just also talk about that as the lead-in into the next clip we're about to watch?
Yeah, sure. Basically, that character is more of a compilation of ideas that I've had in the past. Like, when full disclosure, when after something happens with someone I like, there are a lot of thoughts I have that are, of course, irrational. You know, I think I spout, not necessarily spout, but there are a lot of things I think of that maybe wouldn't make sense in the modern day, but are thoughts that a lot of people have when someone rejects them or when they don't have the outlook on life they wanted to. So when the first draft of Swipe was written, it was actually the first script was actually just about Carter, the narrator, and another girl, and basically that was just a script I just wrote after a night and about just thoughts I had about dating and everything like that in that regard. And from there, that's where I came up with the idea that this guy probably has the most interesting story. He can probably provide the most interesting light, because a lot of the scenes you see in this film and a lot of the characters you see are just glimpses of the stories that they have, whereas with Carter and the girl that he meets, which we're about to see, you get that really intimate moment between them where they're talking and getting to know each other. So I felt he would provide the most interesting feedback on how he views dating culture. And I thought that was a good way to do it, honestly. I've had a lot of people tell me they enjoyed the fact that he turns and talks to the screen. We get to hear him narrate each character because he's got probably a fairly interesting view on it all. And that's just what I've been told, and that's kind of how I felt about it personally.
Yeah, awesome. Me, myself, I would definitely say I'm the shy, sort of cool guy who doesn't know how to talk to girls. I've been
little add-in at the end.
I've been married for seriously. I've been married for 8 years.
Not just shy.
And my wife would tell you we met because we were at a party. I was standing on the wall, mean mugging, with my hands up. I was getting ready to leave the party, and she came and pulled me off the wall to dance. That's how we met. Right? 8 years. No, actually, no, it's more than 8 years. We only been married for 8 years. But years later, we've been married and child and everything. That's how we met. She literally pulled me off the wall when I was mean mugging,
Well, it's funny that you say that, because in the original draft of Swipe, when we realized that it was going to be a little too difficult, I had a fun way of doing it. This is actually something I thought, drawn from personal experience, I thought would be funny. Originally, how Carter was supposed to meet this girl was he sees her at a party. He really wanted beer. There's a huge line. He wasn't going to be able to get the beer, but he noticed she had one, and she's a good-looking girl. She's going to be able to get him one, and that's how he originally meets her. He goes to get a beer from her, and they just end up talking. Because that's, like you said, it's interesting how things like that happen.
Sometimes it happens that way. All right, are we ready for clip 2? I think we are ready for clip 2. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch clip 2 from Swipe.
I feel like since I met you, I've been looking for flaws, and I can't find any.
I'm sure you'll find some.
Yeah? Like what?
Well, I'm not that attractive.
Oh, you're not?
Look at these arms.
Yeah?
They're tiny. I could go to the gym or something.
Dude. You have got a killer haircut.
I appreciate that blatant lie.
Your eyes are gorgeous. I love your facial hair.
None of it?
Your eyebrows are on fleek.
On fleek.
Do you know what that means?
Yes, I know what it means. It's just stupid.
Okay, well, aren't you Mr. Hipster?
Well, I'm not Mr. Fleek. I know that.
So what are you?
What do you mean?
Like hipster, frat guy.
Are those my only options? Neither, I guess.
Gotcha.
I mean, I just don't think it's that black and white. Just because you're in a sorority and say things like eyebrows on fleek doesn't mean you're a basic white girl. It just means that you're you.
Oh, okay, but if you had to choose.
My friend says that I look like a frat guy, but only until I open my mouth or take off my shirt. I just don't think people should be labeled like that.
I agree. I think that it's so stupid when TV and movies that put guys and girls into different social circles and then they can't date. Like people actually think like that.
Yeah, like real Dannies and Sandys.
Yeah, but if Danny and Sandy were both greasers, that doesn't mean that they automatically should go together. Like it's a guarantee.
Well, what is?
What's what?
What's a guarantee for you?
Compatibility.
Thank you. I have dated girls that I've had everything in common with, that I've had nothing in common with, and none of that matters. The only thing that matters is if you get along.
I'm still trying to find things that I don't like about you.
Well, I did laugh when you tried to blow me.
All right, guys. Awesome dialogue in that scene. We were just talking about how some people got roped into the film just based off of that dialogue. That was really, really great dialogue. So the characters seem to think that when people date, and maybe this is just in college, maybe it's in high school, maybe it's after college, but people tend to put other people in categories when they date. Like, it's easier to just like categorize people. Oh, this is the funny guy, this is the serious guy, or whatever, and instantly put people into those categories and decide whether or not they're going to date them or not. Do you feel like that's true?
I feel like it's true to an extent. I think one of the points of that scene I was trying to make, and I guess the characters were trying to make, is that that it shouldn't be that way. But I do feel like not necessarily as much in college, or quite a bit in college, but more in high school. I remember walking through high school and just seeing the different groups, just a circle sitting together, and a lot of people wanted to be in that circle, but you'd have to break in, but they didn't really want you in there because you didn't really fit their crowd.
Right.
Whereas when you get to college, it's a little different, but it still has that, it's still evident. So that's kind of one of the things I want to show, is that, yeah, it's there. Maybe not as much as it used to be. Like, they quote, Grease, Danny, and Sandy, but that is something that they point out in the film. Maybe it's there, but let's not focus on that as much, which was kind of important to me to put in there.
Can you, and I just think this is the fun question, because it's brought up, and I think it's true, people categorize, other people. Can you think, and this is for everybody at the table, can you think of a category of person, whether it be personality trait, whatever, can you think of a category of person that if you found out this person was this thing, you would automatically say, I wouldn't date them?
Well, I'm going last.
I was going to say, I don't know who wants to go first on that question.
If she was a dog, I wouldn't date her. Like an actual dog, and not a derogatory offense. Like,
I think.
It occurred to me after I said that that could not be okay. But I meant the animal, not the.
I think.
How do you go with that?
I think everyone has kind of their turn-offs, whether they like to admit them or not. I think in the back of our heads there is something that maybe puts up red tape against certain people, and it could be instinct, or maybe it's something we've learned out of, past experiences or history. But
I'm gonna push you guys. Though.
I'll get specific.
I'm gonna push you guys though.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't date a racist.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's,
good.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the category of person
Right.
who, if you're like, yeah, she's beautiful, she looks great, but she's racist. No, it's not gonna happen.
Nope.
Let's move on to the next one. So I'm gonna push you guys. Think of there's got to be one category.
Well, I can tell you when I was in college, I always told myself, I was like, I'll never date like a sorority girl. I thought I would never do that. And the girl I'm dating now, she was in a sorority in college, and it's funny because you always say one thing. You'll label a person as something, but then once you actually get to know them, you see past that label, and you see that person is so much more than just that label that you initially gave to them. They're a person with a backstory, with other qualities that you just completely overlooked because you just ascribed something to them.
But that's actually a good lead-in into our what we want to talk about next with you guys. We'll go back to, I believe you still need to give your your red flag.
I need to give a red flag.
We're keeping a list of what Kasey did.
You gotta have a good story.
But just to go back to what you just said, though, I mean the idea. She talks in the scene about talking about social circles.
Yeah.
At what point do you think it starts getting more acceptable to date across social circles? Is it? I mean, is high school the toughest? Is it college?
I think high school is the toughest.
Is adulthood when it's just completely acceptable, when college is over and those lines aren't as drawn anymore?
I mean,
what do you guys think?
To that point, I think it really depends on the person. I think some people just never really grow up and never get out of this sort of backwards way of thinking where they won't look past that. I do think, like you said, high school is probably the toughest because it's like, high school is my life. This is all I've got,
Exactly.
And then college, you start taking on more responsibilities and you start realizing that, other people outside of your little circle do a lot of really cool things. And maybe you like the cool things that they do, and maybe you aren't so much part of the circle that you thought you were. I think that college is probably the time when all that starts to change, and I think after that it sort of dissolves a little bit.
I agree with that because I also don't think it just is pointed out for dating. I think it's just pointed out for everything. Like it's just kind of depends on, like you said, the type of person you are. It's not just for who you're going to date; it's who you're going to hang out with, who you're willing to accept as a friend. I mean, when I was in high school, I was in one very specific group of friends, and then when I went to college, I joined a group of friends, shall we say, wasn't exactly the norm. You know, we had what many would construe as hipsters in the group. You know, we had a very different type of group, and it was, I loved it. I mean, we had people from all over the cycle of like the type of people you'd think would hang out with, and it was just more fun that way. So I do think it's not just for dating, and that's one thing I think it's pretty important to realize, is that it's not just dating. Who are you going to date in this circle and this circle? I just think it's who you choose to accept in life.
No, that's a really good point. And I think I like your line, too, about you also find out that you might not be from the circle that you thought you were in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not always about the other person.
I was going to say,
that's
touching on what
point.
Joey said, you know, with high school, the reason I said high school is the toughest is I feel like in high school you're kind of like, you're not willing to break out of those boundaries, and everyone, you know, kind of has. It's that, you know, same thing everyone always thinks of is you're stuck in that group that you're kind of with. I mean, I played sports growing up my entire life, and so sports were my life. They took up so much time that's kind of what it was. Most of my friends that I met in high school were through, you know, different sport activities. And then I think you get to, you know, college or outside of high school, and you realize that it's a time for trying new things, and you start meeting new people, and you start doing different things, and you realize, oh, I don't have to be, you know, maybe this stuck in the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again. And so I think that's why high school can get a little tough sometimes on kids, and they feel pressure to stay in the same spot. And you get to high school, and, you know, or you get to college, and you get to try things, and you're like, oh, you know, I mean, I got out of sports, and now I'm working on, you know, video stuff with these guys, and I wouldn't have met them if I was still, you know, playing sports full time.
I kind of feel like it's harder in adulthood though. Like it's when you're in high school and when you're in college, there's a certain degree to where it's a little rebellious to sort of date outside of your norm, right? But when you get to be an adult, and then you know you're making a certain amount of money, and you yourself are in a certain social status, I feel like it becomes harder. And there are tons of movies that are made about this. Tyler Perry loves to harp on this. This is not a promo for Tyler Perry whatsoever. But he loves to harp on this, like how, you know, women with you know, well-to-do jobs might not give a guy with a menial job with a well-meaning heart the time of day, and vice versa. You know, maybe if a guy you know, is making a lot of money, but a woman is making a lot of money, or you know, maybe he's intimidated because she is making a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot of nuances that goes into dating in adulthood that you know don't have a place when you date in high school and when you date in college. And so I feel like there's a lot more nuance, you know, there. I'm speaking sort of from a different perspective because I got married pretty early, right? And that's a whole other point that I have to, you know, deal with, and that's what we're going to bring up a question about that later. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, is it a little different? Maybe
it's a curve then. Maybe it's oh, things are hard, they get a little easier, and then I don't know. We're not at that point yet, so
we aren't. And for the record, neither are the people in this movie. But it's interesting that you say that because, like I said, it extends to more than dating. I remember in a Jon Stewart episode, Jake Gyllenhaal referred to Ben Affleck as Mr. Affleck, and Jon Stewart's like, why'd you call him Mr. Affleck? Everyone calls him Ben Affleck. He's like, John, there's a hierarchy in Hollywood. I mean, like you said, there's different levels, I guess, in society. But I think it all extends back to the type of person you are. If you're willing to break the mold and figure out who you want to be, and if that other person's willing to accept it.
Yeah, and I think that you guys did a good job of also showing that people were still having that challenge in the film. Like, it seems like some people broke through and others you were showing still didn't.
And that's important to me because, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say with film, in life there are no happy endings. You see that in movies like Clerks and Inside Llewyn Davis.
Great reference.
Yeah. Oh, great movie. To some extent. But I don't think it's just that in life there are no happy endings, or in life there are only happy endings. It's a mixture of both. And that's what I wanted to show in this film because we have multiple stories. Some end up with good endings, some end up with bad endings. That's just the way life is. And I think some learn how to cope with dealing with new things. I mean, one of the things we wanted to do in this movie was kind of establish a bunch of stereotypes and then break them. And that's kind of the point, one of the big points of the movie was to show how people are willing to break those stereotypes.
Why place it in college as opposed to, I don't know, high school or anywhere else? Let's hold that question, all right, because we got a commercial break coming up. We're going to pick up on that question. We got a commercial break, and then our third clip. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I am Zeke Dowty. I'm a producer, director. I've been a director of photography for 13 years. I'm more comfortable on that side of the camera than where I am right now. Shorts in Focus is an effort to give a platform for independent and student filmmakers to show their work. A lot of students and independent filmmakers have just so much raw talent and great ideas that never make it into the festival circuit or beyond the festival circuit, but we're giving them an opportunity to be shown and then have a conversation with us about the process and about their inspiration, their exasperation, and just the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making their piece. And, you know, maybe having a conversation about what's next for them, where do they want to see their careers go, you know, what their hopes and dreams are.
Who wants some motherfucking Bush Light?
Can I get one?
Hey, I didn't know you'd be here.
Well, you told me about your DJ friend, and I had to check it out.
Where's your girlfriend?
She doesn't like to party.
I'm
How
sorry.
many do you have?
None yet. Why?
Come with me.
I'm freaking out so hard, Todd. Todd?
Alright, here we go. Alright, there we go. Alright, so we just watched the bedroom scene. We're going to get back to the question I just asked you. Do you remember the question? No.
Yeah, it was about kind of breaking the mold, right?
Right.
So, what I'd say about that is, you know, there are a lot of people who think that there are those certain stereotypes and there are those ways of, we don't really see it as a person, we see it as a group. I don't think it should be that simple. I think it should be we accept the person for who they are. Like I have friends from every aspect of college. I have friends from every group, and we all get along just fine. Like some of the most kind of alternative people I know are in sororities or fraternities. I mean, and that's kind of against the stereotype, but that's just the way it is. Like I said, it's the person. It's not really the group.
Yeah. So the clip that we just saw after the commercial break was just one long take, right? And
sure.
And I imagine that it took a lot of choreography for those who are watching who maybe don't have you know, the film background. The camera just followed somebody around without cutting to a different scene, which is extremely hard to do. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of choreography. Can you guys tell me how that scene came to be?
Sure. Well, what some people don't know is that I actually co-directed this film with my friend Ian Herbst, who's just an absolute master at camera operation. That's the reason I asked him to come on to this movie, because I saw some of his previous work and I was like, dude, this is fantastic. But it was actually his idea to come up with this long shot for this scene. But it was funny because that was an idea I had in the past about a long shot through a party, because there are a lot of not only films are from our generation, but films just in general that try to show a party, people having fun and talking and stuff. But I've never really seen a film where they try to make you feel like you're at the party, walking through, seeing what's happening, trying to get a drink, seeing people you know, walking somewhere, seeing other people, and that's what we want to show. So we spent weeks just getting it ready, saying this is what we're gonna do. We went to the house like a month before to scout out. It was a friend of ours, and he basically showed us where we could go, where we should do it. We had, you know, tape on the ground for where they'd walk, X's for where they'd stand, and we had a director for each room, which not a lot of people, obviously, they can't notice. We had someone in each room saying when they were walking, act or go. Like when I'm not, you see me on set on the shot for about 2 seconds. When I'm not in that shot, I am pointing to each person, telling the extras to get out of the way, actors to come in. And it took a lot of choreography, but we planned it so well. We actually did it in like 3 takes instead of the like 15 we were planning on doing.
Wow.
So it actually went pretty well. I was really, really happy with how it turned out. It was really fun.
So that sounds like all roses, but where in that process were the challenges? I mean, 3 takes, that's very impressive, but what actually What was the challenges and all that?
What was the challenge? The challenge was definitely the camera movement and definitely getting the audio in the way. For instance, you see a lot of people try to pull these off and say, it just didn't work because there's a bump somewhere and stuff. We were lucky enough to have the type of gear where we could actually afford to move the camera in certain ways and stuff like that. So the challenges were making sure that we had the camera in the right capacity, and lucky enough it absolutely worked out. Like, we didn't have a lot of the challenges we were worried about. It actually flowed perfectly. The only challenge I'd say that really kind of affected it in the slightest was that the audio clipped a little bit when he said, "Who wants some Busch Light?" and everyone screamed. But we just figured out a way to fix that, so it doesn't sound bad at all.
Well, it's interesting. You have a lot of concurrent action going on. So, like you were saying, there's a director in one room pointing to tell people to do something, and then in another room they have another person watching the cameraman. So you have to choreograph everything so the timing is just right. But at the same time, you have to make sure that the person who's operating the camera, Ian in this case, you have to make sure that they're getting this shot just perfectly. So you're worrying about the shot, but then you also have to worry about the timing of all the people.
Right.
To get both of those to coordinate just right takes a lot of effort. So that's when I wasn't actually present at that shoot. But when he told me he only got it in 3, I was like shocked and amazed.
Yeah, this is one of those shots that I think was the one of the weekends that neither of us could actually be on set because we kind of rotated for most of the weekends on which one of us was down there, along with other people obviously in the crew. And Ryan was sending us kind of rough cuts of this shot, and we were like, it's one scene, there's not even really any cuts in it. And I was just amazed, It's one of those scenes like you kind of are like, you want to show someone, you're like, look at this shot, they did such a great job, it's so amazing. And then the non-film people are just kind of like,
they're like, what is
yeah,
that? Yeah,
okay,
like,
cool, like don't know what you're talking about, but all right, awesome.
So
Ryan, I've been forgetting to have you lead into the next clip. Can you lead us into this next clip?
The next clip. So what happens here is there. This is the one at the restaurant.
Beer and tender.
Yeah. Okay. So what happens at the next clip is.
No, wait. I'm sorry. This is the running into scene.
Oh, well, we're not doing that one.
Oh, right. My bad.
The next one is all good. The next one is this two of the characters, the DJ Cody, who hasn't had a lot of luck with girls in the past, and the kind of, for lack of a better word, tool Blake is they're at a bar or a restaurant, and he's trying to tell him how he should go about dating in the modern age.
All right, here we go.
I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Hey. My shirt's already starting to dry off a little bit. Do you mind if I sit down?
Sure.
I spilled your drink. I mean, it's common courtesy that I get you a new one.
Are you sure?
Yeah, of course. It's my fault.
My name is R. Kayeen Thomas. I am an author, poet, filmmaker, currently in film school at American University. Shorts in Focus is an opportunity, or it's me trying to provide an opportunity for filmmakers, independent filmmakers, non-established filmmakers, student filmmakers to get some exposure for their work. In film school, I met a lot of really, really good people, a lot of really talented people who were doing really great projects, but nobody was seeing them because outside of them being screened in class, they weren't going to film festivals. They weren't, they weren't like being put out on social media. They may have been put on Vimeo, on YouTube, but that was it, right? So I found that this is a market, right? Short films don't get any love. So if we can provide a market for you to be able to take your short film project and air it and get some exposure for it, then everybody wins.
Sorry about the wait, guys. Let me know if you need anything else.
I just don't know why this keeps happening. If you saw yourself at a party, you'd understand. I'm on the dance floor, you're by the jungle juice.
I just don't like guys that go up to every girl asking them to dance.
That's because you're a Poindexter. Do you have a Tinder?
No, I don't have a Tinder.
Why is that weird? Everyone has a Tinder.
People like you have Tinders.
Not so. I know probably like 30 chicks on it. Even Jesus freaks. I met this one Mennonite chick. That was a handful.
Sure.
Stop bitching. Get yourself out there. Be more assertive. That's what they want.
Or get a Tinder.
So, you're free Friday night?
Well, I got a show at 9. I'm a DJ.
Would it be okay if I came?
I'll let you know the address when I find it.
Okay.
All right, guys, look. So I've been holding this question for a while. You know, I've been married for 8 years. When I got married, I knew nothing about Tinder, which I assume is the inspiration for the title Swipe, even though I've never actually swiped. Did I miss out on online? Is hooking up really that easy now? Just picking up your phone, swiping left, swiping right, and you end up in bed with a random. Is it that easy?
Well, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way before I say, it's easy or not. Did you miss out? There was one time, full disclosure, yeah, I've been on that app, and one time I asked a girl, hey, what's up? Her response, verbatim, your teeth could use some work. Your eyes are really nice. Your haircut's okay, but your smile's really good. Overall, 7.5 out of 10.
Wow.
I was like, oh, I mean, that scores good. That scores good, but that's weird. My point is, it's pretty easy to find some interesting people on there. So if you missed out, maybe for that reason. But it's definitely as easy as it's ever been to do things like that. And that's one of the main themes of this film is that it's so easy to do that to just meet someone based on one picture or maybe a couple, just based on that, do you like them, do you not? But at the same time, it's also easy to not to neglect them because you have that technology where you can just cut them off at any minute too. So yeah, did you miss out? I mean, it depends on what you're going for in that capacity, but it definitely is as easy as it's ever been. I'm not gonna say it's a piece of cake.
Here's what I'll say, and it's that how much effort are you willing to put in, and how much weird shit are you willing to put up with, basically. So it's
exactly.
You're always gonna have to be able to hold a conversation in any sort of relationship or otherwise, and a dating app is not really any different than that. If you don't have a connection with that person, if you are the most awkward person in the world, then chances are that's going to come across through text too. You're like, hi, it is Friday, I am good, you. You're not going to get and for some people
you need to sell Kayeen harder.
Sell
him harder.
Text
he's
are
not
awkward,
buying
period. I've learned over the years.
It's too true.
Yeah, they're hard to
decipher. You can't really put an emotion to a text. There's been many times where somebody has sent a text and I thought they were pissed, but they weren't. And then, or somebody sent a text and I thought they were okay, but they were pissed.
So your point is they thought you were awkward, but you're really not. Like what?
Yeah. They thought I was awkward. I wasn't, or I was awkward, and they thought I was okay. My point is, you can't.
Awkward, man.
You can't trace emotions through text. So then I assume you can't trace emotions through these dating apps. So
Well,
it's like
exactly.
so you swipe them and you meet the person and you have no idea who they are. You just sort of saw their picture and their profile. And so like, what if you sit down with them and they're, I mean, I don't know, if they breathe fire. What if they, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I guess you take that
Exactly.
risk.
You take the risk, but that's the exact point of the movie, is that emotion that was, it's still there. I mean, like, we see it later in the movie that there can be that connection. But then emotion that we see through regular dating and stuff isn't quite there in these dating apps. Like, we base this film, like when I wrote it, based mostly on observations that we personally have made. But in regard to kind of the connection and stuff, that's kind of what I feel is lacking in these dating apps. Like, you see it, you swipe. You don't like them, you swipe left. I mean, is dating really that simple? I don't think it is. And at the same time, I point out in the film, like you mentioned, texting. Texting's also an important part. You know, at one point, one of the characters texts another character too much, and he or she doesn't like that. I just think, yeah, it might come across as excessive, or maybe they were excessive. But why doesn't that mean they just want to talk to you? I mean, I just think it's simple, and those are the questions that a lot of people have to ask in our day and age.
See, and I think I've had friends that have met, you know, their significant other on a social media app, and they've been together 2 or 3 years now, and I've talked to them, and I'm just like, oh, how'd you guys meet? And I expect, 2 or 3 years, you expect almost more of like that coincidence story, or, that sort of thing. They're like, oh, we met on Tinder, or we met on so-and-so. And I'm like, really, off of that? And they're like, yeah, and they admit, they were nervous and everything at first about it, but they're like, yeah, once we got to talking, we realized we really did have a lot in common.
But there are other ones too, right? There's like, I don't know, what, OkCupid and like Match that kind. Like I've seen ones that advertise like, we purposefully take down every bit of information and use our specialized algorithm to match you with the person who you're destined to fall in love with. I don't buy it.
They interview your dog. They
go all around. Is it taboo now for a couple to admit that they met on a dating app?
I don't think so.
I don't think so at all now.
I think a lot of people have grown up with the technology being there, and when it's there for that entire time, then people are just sort of used to it, and they're like, okay, it's commonplace.
No, it's like. I mean, the fact that we have this technology, and the fact that there's a line in the movie where that you just heard, that where the character Blake, the bearded guy, says I've known probably like 30 chicks on it. I mean, he's of course not a great guy, but that there is some truth to that, where so many people are on these dating apps. It's just kind of the norm now, honestly. Now, for a dating app such as Tinder, where you just judged by a picture and maybe one sentence, it's a little distant, but at the same time, it's definitely popular, and it's definitely the way a lot of people do it.
So do you think you're taking are you making more of a statement about relationships or dating technology in this film?
What we try to do, and then this is one of the discussions that we had back and forth actually quite a bit, was it's like, how do we want to paint this, and do we want to paint it in a good light or a bad light? And ultimately we decided we were going to leave it up to the viewers. So, we were talking earlier, it's like, 2 of these protagonists, their plot lines are they're like unfulfilled. You don't really get any closure from what happens. And then the third one, the main character, Turner, or
John Turner.
John Turner's
the actor, yeah.
John Turner, his character, the guy who's the protagonist that breaks the fourth wall, you see he gets a text from this girl, and then you see him look up at the camera, but we don't really say whether or not it was the girl. I mean, we know it was from the girl, but we don't know if it's good or bad. And sort of what we wanted to do with that is we wanted to let the viewers ascribe their own emotions to it, because everybody has their own opinions on dating apps, and relationships and meeting people. And so, you can't really say that it's bad or it's good, because really it's up to the people that meet each other on there to decide whether it's good or bad. I have friends right now, they're engaged, they're getting married, and they met on Tinder. And
it can happen.
It's interesting. And to that point, not everybody uses those apps just to hook up. And I think you hear the word Tinder, and people are like, oh, that's the hookup app. But there's a lot of people too that use it actually just to meet people. And it's not necessarily that it's like, okay, anybody you match with, you're going to go and hook up with them. A lot of times people use it as almost like a discovery tool. You'll go and meet other people and you'll start a relationship based off of that meeting. So it's almost like a pre-date date. So it's interesting. It's definitely changed the dynamic a little bit. And in some ways, for some people who are just looking for easy sex or something like that, then sure, it might be easier for them if both people know what they're looking for. Right. But at the same time, it's just a whole nother, it almost complements the systems that are in place now.
Yeah, basically the idea that we're going for isn't that any of this is bad. It's that it's easier to be bad. Like he says, we leave it up to the viewer in the end. It can be good. Like, plenty of people meet their spouses, their significant others this way. But at the same time, the negatives that we do show about it just show that it is easier to neglect people, but it is also easier, as we put in the end, to attract people. That's the point of the ending.
That just sounded like a good subline under the title, Swipes.
It really did.
It's easier to be bad.
I'll mention that for the next trailer.
So spoiler alert for the audience here. Two of these three main characters end up unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Is that your way of giving a message that? And I feel like you already answered it, but I'm gonna come back around to it.
Sure.
Is that your way of giving a message that these, sort of fly-by-night dating apps aren't the way to go, or again, is it just fly-by-night, like nobody really has a happy ending sort of thing?
Well, here's what I'll say about that for fulfillment, unfulfillment. A lot of the times in classes in books for reading about storytelling, how to tell one, we're told that a character has to have an arc and they have to end up with fulfillment at the end or unfulfillment. Seek some sort of climax in the way that they become a different character. Like we see it, and I personally think that in the age of college-age adults, that's not really the way life is. I mean, the way you see these characters, you see a glimpse of their life, but you never, with the exception of maybe one or two, you never really see their end journey. You just see a part of their life where they have a chance to take one road or the other. Which one are they going to take? Some we find that out with, others we don't. But the truth is, at this point in time, I want to paint an accurate picture where do we really know which way they're going to go, and do we know where they're going to end up? And that's what I want to show. Because at this point, I mean, I can tell you that I don't know any of the answers to my own personal stories. I just know where I want to go, but I'm not even sure which path I want to take. But I know that there are stories and journeys that I want to take that will lead me to the next place I want to be. And that's what I feel like these characters, that's what I feel like they're dealing with as well.
So, on that note, though, you don't know what's next, but what's next for this film, and what's next for your group as you guys work together for your next project?
What's next, hopefully, for the film is we're trying to submit to festivals. We're trying to get people to see this film, as many as we can. We had a little, private screening, and lucky enough, we had so many people show up. It was awesome. They all loved it. It was great. So we're trying to submit to festivals, see if we can get in. Hopefully we will. I mean, it depends on the competition, but if we do, we'll be happy to go and see some people. In regard to projects, I know Kasey's working on her own personal web series. I don't have too many projects that I'm personally writing in the future, but I know Joey has one that he was hoping to just mention quickly about a series that we're working on. So.
Yep. So I guess so in August we're actually filming a TV pilot. It's called The Misadventures of Pat and Blount. It's a working title right now. But essentially it follows a washed-up TV producer as he struggles to get his life back on track after a catastrophic life event. So, yeah, that's that. But, I mean, going back to what you were asking about, what's next for Swipe, this is sort of where Kasey and Ryan and Ian and I have all been collaborating. We're going to take it on tour because as you've seen in the film, we kind of cater it towards college students. It's not necessarily just for college students, but I think it is really easy for them to connect to it because that's the point in their life where they're really starting to experience those sort of situations and those sort of scenarios that the characters are experiencing. And so one of our goals with Swipe is to actually show that on campuses across the United States. And so, one of the things we've been working on this summer is deciding, okay, does this college have an organization or a club that would be interested in screening this film? And so we've been getting in touch with a lot of these organizations and figuring out and just trying to gauge, we're trying to start a conversation. It's like, how do you guys feel about modern dating? And it's almost like what we've been talking about tonight. Do you think these dating apps are beneficial in the long run? Are they something that people can use to actually benefit them in the long run in terms of how they go about their relationships, or are they something that's really detrimental to how people form relationships? And it's an interesting conversation because everybody has a different opinion on it. Some people have tried them, some people haven't. And I think that's a debate that will continue for a very long time. But that's one of the reasons we're so interested in it. It's a very controversial and divisive topic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, we have reached the end of our show. An hour flies when you're having fun and talking about great stuff. I want to thank Ryan. Ryan, say your last name for me. I've been butchering it for like 2 weeks.
Ryan Cudahy.
Cudahy. I want to thank Ryan Cudahy. I want to thank Kasey Ball, and I want to thank Joey Cathey for joining us today. This has been an awesome show.
Great work, guys.
Thank you.
Keep an eye out for Swipe. All right. When it gets done and they're touring the world, sharing it, and then it gets production and they make millions of dollars, remember you saw it here first on Shorts in Focus. Guys, make sure you tune in next week where we'll have Adili Elixir here with his short documentary about beatboxing. It's really, really cool. You guys don't want to miss it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the beatboxer here in studio as well. We want to thank you guys for tuning in to Shorts in Focus. Make sure you catch us again next week. Make sure you follow us, Shorts in Focus on Facebook, Shorts in Focus on Twitter, Shorts in Focus on Instagram. Really simple all across the board. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Zeke Dowty.
And I'm Kayeen Thomas.
And so we're the producers
of Shorts in Focus.
He's also the host.
I am the host, so you're going to see my face a lot. Shorts in Focus is a show that will be aired on listenvisionlive.com. It's listenvisionlive.com. We will be featuring short film projects.
So we're going to screen it, and then we're going to have a conversation with the filmmakers themselves. The actors, the actresses, producers, directors.
There's no telling who's going to be on the show, but they will always be able to have a discussion about what it is that you just saw.
So whether you have a narrative, documentary, hell, music video, give us a shout at Zeke at shortsinfocus.tv
or Kayeen at shortsinfocus.tv. And remember, your project has to be short.
Every Monday night at 8 p.m. on listenvisionlive.com.
All right, so what you want to do is on Monday nights, 8 o'clock p.m., you want to go to www.listenvisionlive.com. You can do it on your cell phone, or you can do it on your laptop, although we know that you'll be doing it from your cell phone. Once again, you want to go to www.listenvisionlive.com, Mondays at 8 o'clock p.m. Go to the site, hit play. We will be streaming live. So Mondays, 8 o'clock p.m., listenvisionlive.com. Tune in, check us out. We're sure you'll love it.